Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So I figured I would announce formally that we did end up choosing to keep the cement gray Tacoma TRD Pro. So we had the 2019 for about 36 hours before, ironically enough, Toyota over here ended up wanting it. And they paid a fair price, but of course a price where they could mark it up and then try to sell it. Not mark it up, but I think posted just for a little bit over MSRP, probably 1,000 or so over here. So give you a little bit of backstory, just kind of walk you through what that purchase process looked like and let you know if I regret doing it or not. So I'll open up with no, I don't regret it. However, do I think it was worth it as far as everything, how it panned out? I would say no, because it did kind of turn into a little bit of a headache, turned into tying up the money, some of my money for a little bit longer than I wanted to. As you guys know, I ended up putting my non-refundable $3,000 deposit on it back in April-May timeframe. And then just 4 days ago now, I ended up taking delivery of it. So that's a long time to kind of have some money tied up. Granted, it is important to note that I didn't pay the full amount for the vehicle until it became available about a week and a half ago. So it was just a small chunk of change tied up, but more so it turned into the headaches surrounding the transportation of it, coordinating the driver for it, trying to get a good deal on that, which is pretty difficult this time of year. I mean, let alone there's a lot of snowstorms happening across Montana and North Dakota, and that's where I bought it, North Dakota. So if I could go back, would I do it again? I don't know, to be honest, but this is what the numbers look like. I figure I owe you this and kind of walk you through why I even did it in the first place. So I bought it long before the cement gray was even an option. As you guys know, I bought this as I went back to pick up my dog that was lost months ago, and he came up. They found him 2 months later. So I flew back to Wyoming and I ended up buying this, kind of that impulse buy, and I drove it back with my dog. So kind of a cool thing. I love having that story with this truck. I think it's pretty neat. But the biggest thing with this one, having paid about $46,000 for it, was the Icon suspension kit. The suspension kit, the wheels and tires, all the additions that were already on it, mounted up to probably around $8,000 to $9,000 worth of stuff. And when you tie that to the low mileage of it, 9,000 miles, and the cement gray exclusive color, it just made it worthwhile for sure. So I'm happy I jumped on this one. The Voodoo Blue, what made it so special was the price tag and the color. So I went on this stint for a long time, and you guys probably recall from my channel if you've been sticking around for a while. I fell in love with Voodoo Blue, and I still am, and I ended up finding one in North Dakota of all places, and I managed to negotiate a little bit with them and turn the final price, out the door price, to $41,000. So brand new 2019 Voodoo Blue Tacoma TRD Pro for $41,000 is pretty unheard of. But again, I bought it and I put my non-refundable deposit on it knowing that I'm taking a little bit of a gamble just with how long I would have to wait to get it. I was hoping to get it, of course, before even leaving Wyoming, but that just didn't work out. So that caused me to have to transport it out here to Washington, which is an additional $1,600. So the grand total price was $42,600. is what I ended up paying all for that. And then here in Washington, I posted it for MSRP. I posted it for the sticker because it was a brand new Voodoo Blue Tacoma. And as you guys know, there's not too many of them floating around. So I posted it for MSRP. And I got quite a bit of attention, quite a bit of traction on it from the beginning. And admittedly, if I just held off on it for maybe a couple more weeks, perhaps it could have gotten my asking price. But I wasn't out to make a bunch of money on it. That wasn't my going in plan. Really, I was just trying to unload it so I could free up that money to pursue what you guys are going to see here in about a couple weeks. So I ended up selling it back to Toyota of Tacoma out here in Washington for $45,000. So $45,000. I was admittedly going to sell it for $44,000 to Toyota of Beaverton. They wanted it for $44,000. But then kind of last second, I decided to call around locally to say, hey, here's the offer. They even wrote up a check and everything, Toyota Beaverton. Here's the offer that I'm getting from them. Are you willing to do 45 and I can drive it to you tonight? And Toyota of Tacoma was talked to his manager for 5 seconds, and he showed him the pictures of it. He's like, yeah, absolutely, have him drive it here. So I ended up dropping it off with 123 miles on it by the time I got down there from where I'm at. So, and they have it up for sale now. I think like I said, about $1,000 or $1,500 more than MSRP. But I do think that they'll get that just because there's not a whole lot of brand new Voodoo Blue Tacoma TRD Pros floating around, right? So somebody's bound to buy it for sure, especially since it sticks out like a sore thumb, and I think they even got it in their showroom floor right now. At any rate, so that's kind of what it looked like. I paid $42,600 after everything, and then I sold it for $45,000. So it was a $2,400 profit, if you will, which is cool. You know, you can never complain when you're making money, but that wasn't the intent going into it. You know, it's just the way circumstances went, and my impulse buy of this Tacoma, I no longer needed it, and I had the non-refundable deposit. So I knew it was still going to be a really good deal, so I continued forward without kicking and screaming to try to get my deposit back, and I'm happy I did. You know, it worked out okay. But there you have it, guys. After having that Voodoo Blue next to this one for so long, I've like this right here looks so bland compared to it. So, but once you guys see what is going to arrive here in the next week and a half or so, it'll make sense why I ended up really choosing to sell that one over this cement gray here. But anyways, much more to follow. Kind of leave you with this too. So traded in the Land Cruiser. I'll walk you through the numbers on that. I already kind of commented to a number of you. I paid $79,700 for it. I got $10,000 below MSRP from Toyota of Laramie in Wyoming, if you guys recall. And I ended up selling it, or trading it in, for $83,500. So about just under $4,000 more than what I paid for it brand new. And as you saw with my video of it departing my residence here, I took off all the goodies that I put on. I took off the tires, the KO2s I put on. I took off the SLE off-road rock sliders that I had on it. And admittedly, I still have, I have the, I have the roof rack in there still. So if you guys remember, I took that off like 2 months prior, not to keep it, but just to fit in touchless car washes. So I had that still. So it really worked out well. The only bummer is I did have to transport that, as you saw. So, that kicked up, that kind of ruined the profit a little bit on it. But to have owned the vehicle and driven it 10,000 miles, and to have gotten that great of a trade value and sale price of what I'm getting is an awesome sale price. And I'll get into that, of course, once we get it. But we're very pleased with it. And yes, my wife, Mrs. Untamed, is very pleased and excited about what she's getting. So she is going to have her own rig again, of course. I'm going to keep the Tacoma cement gray. We'll say that loosely, okay? The plan is to keep this Tacoma TRD Pro, and then of course I will have my replacement, so my main driver, if you will, and this will be kind of parked for the most part. So it will be down to 3 fully paid off vehicles, which is really cool. We still owed a little bit on the Land Cruiser there, so it allowed us to totally clear out any kind of loans that we had and get 3 pretty awesome vehicles. And well, I'll say stay tuned for now, and much more to follow. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate the support. Until next time.